Good evening, everybody. My name is Cherisse. Welcome to my channel. So I am doing this from my bathroom right now, so I apologize. I don't have one of those fancy round lights yet, but it's nighttime, so this is actually like the best lighting I can find right now. I guess maybe out there the lighting's better, but I just felt like doing it in my bathroom, so welcome to my bathroom. I'm not going to show you what it looks like because it's kind of dirty and the sink needs to be cleaned desperately. But anyway, to the topic of my video, I feel like life is just constantly humbling me. Oh man, I feel like humility is honestly one of the greatest themes in my life, and it has been for a long time. To be honest, I think like one of the first major humbling experiences that I went through was when I left the church 10 years ago, and I've been brutally beaten down by life at times, but I wouldn't necessarily call those the humbling experiences. I mean, they have been humbling to some degree, but what I'm kind of talking about with humbling is constantly kind of being reminded that there's so much I don't know still, and you can talk the talk, you can be very knowledgeable, and you can be very, very wise, but it is much harder to apply things to your life. I think everybody has some form of an understanding of this. It's kind of like the concept, like, you can give the best advice, but do you take it kind of a thing. And I will say that when I give out advice, I generally also do take it myself, but at the same time, like, just because I can see things clearly sometimes, and just because I can put it into words, like my last video was about transforming the concept of detachment into an act of surrender, and you should totally check that out if you feel like it. I'll put a link below in the description. But in this video, like, I was definitely at more of like it was a process still of like letting go and creating a space of peace for myself within this period of constant surrendering. And like, I made that and I said all these wonderful things, and I'm definitely encouraging myself when I make a lot of these videos. I'm definitely reminding myself a lot of practices that I want to participate in, that I am also participating in, and it's encouragement to keep it up to myself. But sometimes it's really hard. Like, I posted that video yesterday, and I think I took it like a few days ago, and today I just had such massive panic attacks, just crazy anxiety, and man, just all around work. It's all work related. I've just been getting really overwhelmed, and a couple days ago I ended up getting really gnarly blisters on the bottoms of my feet. And I honestly love my job. I work in the parking lot pushing around carts, but I walk like 10 miles a day, and a couple days ago I did my longest. It was my most amount of miles that I walked at work, and I walked 13 miles in a little over 7 hours. And I already had blisters to start with that day. I'd gotten blisters like the day before. At the end of the work day, I noticed I had pretty bad blisters. So for 13 miles, walked on really intense blisters in a lot of pain in my feet. And it got to the point where like the last hour and a half of my shift, I could barely walk, and it was severely painful. Like, I was constantly on the verge of tears. Like, I am somebody who, I experience like really severe anxiety and overwhelm and overstimulation sometimes, but people almost never know it unless you are somebody who is very close to me that I confide in during these times. I am a very, very private person about my overwhelm, but it honestly can be really consistent sometimes, especially since I'm in this transition, going into a real person job for the first time in 4 years, and I'm constantly surrounded by people and cars and busyness, and it can get really overwhelming and overstimulating. I will say that I love my job, the aspect of it, that I'm outside basically the whole time, most of the time, and I don't deal with people as much. Like, there's a lot of cars and driving, and people can drive kind of crazy, but for the most part, it's actually one of probably the more peaceful jobs at this place. So I'm really grateful to have this job, but with the blisters that formed, I was just, man, I was so stressed out. I will say I did an Epsom salt soak last night on my feet to help, like, kind of dry them up and soothe my feet. And after sleeping on it, my feet were doing a lot better today. I can walk without as much pain. Like, last night, it was like a severely painful struggle just to walk from my bedroom to the bathroom to take a piss. Like, it hurt so bad. And so I'm grateful that they didn't hurt as bad today, but they were still hurting enough that I called my store manager, or my assistant store manager was like, hey, can I, like, be put on cashier because this is too painful for me to walk with my feet like this. And yesterday, towards the end of the day, because of the pain in the front of my feet, the blisters are on the bottom front part of my feet, how bad it was causing me to walk different, like more on my heels and to, like, the sides of my feet. And at one point I stepped and it was putting too much pressure into my heel, and it felt like it was starting to, like, tear the muscles back there, like, overstretch them. I don't know what term it would be, but I stepped and it put too much pressure on my heel and it burned. It hurt so fucking bad, and the pain started shooting up my leg into other areas. I started feeling it in my back, and I was like, hey, I can't walk with my feet like this because I'm worried it's going to cause a worse injury because of how weird I'm walking because of the blisters. And I've just been having, like, such anxiety just around telling her this, around the thought of, like, okay, well, at first I was like, yeah, maybe I can get transferred to cashier, and then she's like, no, that's not how it works. Maybe the store manager will approve it. But then I'm like, wait, no, I don't want to be transferred to cashier. I just want a couple days of doing something else before I will go back to my regular job. So I'm not walking quite as much, so it will heal. And so I'm just like, I'm literally freaking out about this today. Like, literally the day after I post a video all about surrender and, like, living in the moment and exuding peace and all this. And I just spent, like, today, like, a good amount of today, not all of it. I will say there were a couple periods today where I went outside next to this little pond and I was just, like, so calm and I felt so good. And then, like, as soon as I got back to the apartment, I was just, like, intense fucking panic attack, literally, like, crying on the ground in the kitchen while I'm cooking my dinner, and just, like, honestly putting myself down, being like, what the hell, why am I, like, freaking out so bad? Like, I've been fighting a severe panic attack all day because of this, because of my feet, and then I'm just like, I'm beating myself up for having such mental health issues and struggling so bad with my anxiety, and then I'm like, nobody's ever gonna love me like this, and it's just, like, fucking spiraled out so hard. But I will say, once I just cried it all out, I didn't hurt myself, I didn't do anything harmful at all to myself or anybody else other than kind of, like, belittling myself a little bit. But I got it out, I cried, I started playing some healing frequencies. I think that what I was listening to was 528 hertz. I could be wrong about that. Maybe it was a different one. But I started listening to some healing music and I just laid in my bed and I was so just, like, just so overwhelmed. Like, I couldn't even listen to the dogs playing. I had to make them stop playing because I was getting overstimulated by the sound of them playing. And I think that this is, like, I jokingly mentioned to my best friend today that, like, this is, like, autistic anxiety, and I made a joke about it, but I think that it's real, to be honest. I do think that it has a lot to do with that aspect of myself, where sometimes, like, when the overwhelm builds, and this is right after I worked 5 days in a row, and the last time I worked 5 days in a row, I also had a really severe panic attack. So I think the buildup, the overwhelm of working that many days and just being around people so much, and the added aspect of the overwhelm and overstimulation of having these crazy painful blisters on my feet, and then, like, kind of like catastrophizing, I feel like I'm saying that wrong, the whole situation just, like, spiraling out. I finally calmed down. My dogs were just, all three of them just laid on top of me and cuddled me and just laid with me, and I listened to that healing music until I had, like, totally chilled out. And man, if you had, like, panic attacks before, you know how exhausting they can be. If you have crying fits, if you experience panic, anxiety, any of these things, overwhelm, overstimulation, you probably know how exhausting it can be to have, like, that break. And so once you get it out of your system, honestly, generally, I personally, maybe this does not apply to everybody, but I personally feel a lot more at peace. I feel way more calmed down, and I'm like, okay, everything's okay now. Like, we got it out of our system. It's like a giant, icky, stinky, constipated shit that you finally get out. It's, like, really difficult and painful, but once it's gone, you just feel, like, exhausted and so much better. That's, like, such a weird example to give, but it's the only one that came to my mind, so I apologize if that is disturbing to you. I don't know why it would be, because everybody poops, and a lot of people experience constipation, but anyway, yeah. I will also say that after I have these, like, little episodes, panic episodes, anxiety episodes, overwhelm, overstimulation episodes, whatever they are, I get so calm. Like, so, like, it's like the complete opposite of it. Just so absolutely calm, so gentle, so peaceful. I'm so much kinder to myself all of a sudden. And I am grateful for, like, getting it out of my system, and I'm grateful that I'm in a place where I am not harming myself truly in any way. That shows so much growth. Like, I still experience these intense panic moments, but I've been dealing with them so much better than I used to, especially since coming out of a really intense depression the past couple months that I had been in for, like, 7 months prior, over, like, the winter time. So yeah, just, that is definitely a humbling thing to go through, when I feel like so many times I have the words and the knowledge and the wisdom to express messages from spirit and from my intuition about life and healing and personal growth and mental health and all of these things, but I still struggle so much all the time. And it's good to recognize how far that I've come, but at the same time, like, it is very humbling to one moment be in such a state of, like, yes, like, I understand what is the right thing to do, how to create peace in my life, how to create mental stability and emotional stability. It's like I know all the right things to do, but there are still those moments where I get really lost in the sauce, and it can be so difficult, especially being, like, alone. And I've dealt with my mental health journey alone for the most part. I do have family and friends that have been so supportive over me, but in these types of moments, generally, I deal with them alone because I don't want to put anybody else through having to deal with that. But yeah, so I don't know why I felt like sharing that today, but I just did. Maybe somebody needed to hear it. I personally know what it feels like when you follow somebody for their messages on healing and growth. I think that one thing that is maybe a little different about my channel when it comes to people following me for like my teaching content is I think that a lot of people who follow me now follow me because I'm relatable to their own life experiences and struggles rather than just being somebody that's teaching them. But at the same time, I know that a lot of my videos are like kind of like teaching videos, and I know how difficult it can be sometimes when you're in like a tough spot and you're already experiencing anxiety, overwhelm, and overstimulation from all the information that's being thrown at you. And when you have mental health struggles and you are self-aware and you've been working on yourself for a while and you're still dealing with mental health issues, because I would say for all people, but I don't know, maybe there are some miracle people out there. For most people, those issues don't just immediately go away. For most of us, it takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of practice and dedication and willpower to keep up with that. But there are moments that you get low and you get tired and you get exhausted, and having somebody put more information out there that you're like, not what I need to hear right now, it can just be the thing that tips you right off and makes you lose it a little bit. So I think that's kind of why I wanted to share this. I do find I'm like always sharing it, like, hey, I'm not doing good today. Because I feel like it's good to share that aspect when you're talking about healing, when you're sharing about healing on any type of social media outlet, that it's important to be vulnerable with the bad things as well and the difficult aspects of healing, rather than just like, this is what you do to create growth and peace and love and goodness in your life. I think it's good to be real about the fact that sometimes it really sucks, and if you struggle with mental health, no matter if you've been working on yourself for decades, you might still experience really rough lows. I will say I have not been working on myself for decades, but maybe somebody needed to hear that, you know? I have been really working on myself, I would say, for the past 5 or 6 years. So I like to think I have a bit under my belt, but I definitely know that I have a lot of growing and healing left to do. But I am still so proud of myself for how far I've come. This job can be really overwhelming and overstimulating for me at times, and I will say that I'm grateful for the woman that I am, because most of the time I bring such a positive attitude to my job, and I am just constantly smiling. Not every second, because that would be kind of weird. Maybe not that weird. There's a lady at my work who smiles pretty consistently, but I think that I see like some people in my work who just bring such an element of joy and peace and like a safe energy, and all I can think is like, wow, you've probably been through fucking hell. Because I will honestly say, as somebody who seems like a very happy person to most of the people that I come across, other than I would say the closest people in my life who see all the sides of me, but I would say more like strangers and people who don't know me very well, I seem like a very happy person. And as somebody who, I am a happy person and I've worked really hard on creating this happiness, I know that often the happiest people, the people who bring the deepest joy, the deepest true joy into environments, are the people who have gone through some of the hardest struggles, because when you learn to create your own happiness through all of the darkness that you've been through, I genuinely believe that it does shine out of your face like sunshine. So that is it, you guys. Thank you for watching my channel. Please like and subscribe. I hope that you guys have an amazing day, an amazing night whenever you're watching this. Yeah, I love you so much, and I believe in you. You are doing so much better than you think that you are. Okay, bye.